What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yanks of the Cop. We are here for the pre-match analysis for the Liverpool versus Fulham game coming on Sunday. As always, I'm joined by my brother Scans. Wahomie has the day off tonight, but we wanted to bring on a very special guest. He is a Fulham fan here to break down everything Fulham, so we fully understand what we're getting ourselves into on Sunday. We have Charlie, and his Twitter name is @CHimmer0. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us, man. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. First time doing something like this, but hopefully I can give some analysis on Fulham and hopefully build up to a good result for us.
You're a natural, man. Natural.
I hope it's a good result for you. I hope it's a good result for us. So we'll see. And hey, this is going to be the first of many because now this means you have to come on for the second leg too. So, everyone, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right in the bottom right-hand corner. Hit that symbol. You'll subscribe. We really appreciate it. And leave your comments in the comment section. We'd love to talk about it after with you guys. But let's get right down into it. Charlie, I really want to start with you and just the full analysis here of Fulham. I mean, looking at where you are, you're just above relegation zone, I believe. Kind of struggled early in the season, but it looks like you guys are starting to improve a little bit. So how would you break down, kind of your season so far and where you're at today?
Sure. I mean, I guess with Fulham, we started really slowly. So straight into season, lost to Arsenal. We've had a lot of bad results at home against Villa. Like, I know you guys struggled with them as well, but, that was a real blow, I think, early on in the season, losing 3-0 at home. Against Palace as well at home, we did really poorly. But like you say, over the last few games, we sort of picked things up. Against West Ham, we had the sort of penalty miss, which I know everyone sort of knows about, but since then the Leicester result was massive. I think that's the real turning point. Getting a win there where no one expected it was huge for morale. And yeah, I mean, even against City last week, 2-0 loss is like, you'd probably take that going into it, as depressing as it is, but we got to push on from that. Liverpool, it's going to be a tough game, but we showed against Leicester we can play against the big dogs, so here's hoping.
Yeah,
Charlie, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I think in the beginning of the season, you guys definitely lacked some desire. It felt like you guys were definitely struggling in the Premier League. But what do you think changed recently? I noticed that Mitrovic it doesn't seem like he's been starting recently. Is that right?
Yeah, Mitrovic has missed the last 3 games. I mean, I think now we've got a settled back line. That's like a big transition for us. Scott's basically started setting up slightly differently. I'm sure we'll get on to talking about it, but against Leicester we went with a sort of 5 at the back and more counter football, whereas previously we try and hold the ball a lot, have a lot of possession, but it was a big switch in the Leicester game which paid off. Obviously we didn't play Mitrovic and Kearney in the last 2, so I mean that's a big switch. They're probably on paper 2 of our best players, but it showed that we need to set up differently. And yeah, promising. I actually think Mitrovic might play in this game. I think he might mix it up, but it's good to know that we can win without him as well. I think a lot of fans were crying for a new striker in the summer just as a backup option, but we've shown without him we can still get results. So it's good on that front.
And what are your thoughts on Scotty Parker? I know from my point of view, I actually really enjoyed watching him when he was at Spurs. Obviously, he had some caps with the England national team, and I think he had a stint at QPR as well. But how is he from a manager perspective? I mean, he's always looking dapper there on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, he does dress well. Scott Parker's an interesting one. He played for a lot of London clubs. I actually think QPR is probably the one he didn't play for, but he played for every other London club.
I thought he did.
But yeah, he obviously played for Fulham, so there's connections there. I think if you were to ask most fans, we back Scott fully, because at the end of the day, we've been through that process where you keep switching managers and it hasn't paid off. Last time we were in the Prem, we had 3 managers, no cigar there. So, I think most fans just want us to stick with him, see where his footballing style takes us. But in saying that, you guys know on Twitter what it's like. If a team loses 2 in a row, suddenly the sort of pitchforks are out. So he's got everyone's backing at the moment. I think he's he's got the full season. I think the chairman likes him, so most fans back him, and yeah, just hoping him well. Like, he's a young manager. You want to see him do well, and I think he speaks well. You can tell his heart's definitely in it. So
yeah.
Well, it's interesting because what were your teams and like the fans, like what was your expectation of like how you guys thought you'd be this season, and now sitting at 17th looking forward and seeing the form of the team, how confident are you that you're going to be able to stay out of the relegation zone?
I mean, I think most fans are quite confident. Just in terms of on paper, I think we have a better team than Burnley, West Brom, and Sheffield United. And then potentially you have Brighton as well, who I don't think by any means are safe. So I think you've got this mini league of sort of 4 or 5 teams really scrapping to stay up. I think on paper, yeah, we've got slightly better squads than the other two. Going into the season, fans just want to stay up. We don't care if we stay up by 1 goal difference. If you look at Villa, say last season, they started really poorly, managed to just about stay up on the last day, and they've really pushed on since. I think Fulham are very similar. If we can manage to stay up this season, we've got a lot more sort of freedom to sign players. That first season's always incredibly difficult when you come up because you've got to replace normally like half the squad. You've been reliant on loans. So if you manage to scrape and stay up, we've got owners that are willing to spend. So it's just about staying up this season and next season really pushing on, I think.
Well, that seemed like one of the mistakes that was made on your previous promotion from the championship was you guys came in and spent a good amount of money right away, and it just didn't seem to really click. Are you thankful that, they didn't really do that this past summer, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we still spent a fair bit, but I think in the media, people say sort of put a bit too much hype on the spending because last time we came up, we had to replace so many players. People think you're just bringing in players willy-nilly for the sake of it, but
right.
Really we had to replace, about 6 first-team players, and that costs money. Even an average player nowadays is like 10 million. So I don't look too much into the last time we were up. I think although some of the transfers were a bit odd, we've rectified some of that. I mean, there's still, you say about the backing of Parker. I think at times Tony Khan, our chairman, the CEO, he's got a lot of criticism about the transfer policy. But
sure,
yeah, I think now looking at the squad we've got, most fans are quite happy with how we've spent the money. I think we could have done with another striker potentially. When we don't have Mitrovic, we really don't have a out striker. So that's maybe something to address in January.
I mean, I was really impressed when you guys got the promotion and coming back. I just feel like you don't see it often when a team you get promoted and then you get relegated and now you're coming right back up again. I mean, have you noticed a different mentality in the team this year compared to past seasons?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite early to say and judge it, and obviously we haven't been in the ground either. So I think you can read a lot more into it when you're at the ground and sort of feel the atmosphere and how players react. But I mean, it definitely seems like this year that we've got players like Tom Cairney, for example, who in interviews has said like the last time in the Prem, there were a lot of things going wrong. The manager sort of merry-go-round. But this season definitely seems a bit different. It's a lot more promising, and I think there's a lot more stability there in the squad.
When it comes to this match against Liverpool, obviously you kind of hinted at it earlier that you've been working with different formations. City, it looked like you guys played a 3-4-1-2 or something along those lines. Leicester, you even mentioned it as a 5-4-1. How do you expect Fulham to go against Liverpool?
I mean, it's an interesting question. Parker definitely can throw a few sort of spanners in the works. You don't really know what you're going to get. Because we're at home, I don't know if he'll line up the same way we did against City and Leicester, which was a sort of 5-2-3. So we have the 5 at the back with the wing backs pushing on. Like I said, I think the formation will basically be based around whether he starts Mitrovic, which I personally would. If he does, I think we're more likely to go with a sort of 4-3-3, which is our standard formation.
Okay.
It's really up in the air. I mean, he could definitely go with the team that started the last 2, which, like I say, is sort of 5 at the back. But yeah, it sort of hinges on that Mitrovic decision and also Tom Cairney, whether he wants to start him.
Let's continue that part because I'm pretty familiar with Kearney because like he's on my fantasy team, so I'm like, okay, hell yeah, this guy's having a good season. But who are some of the potential danger players when as a Liverpool fan looking at Fulham, who should we be concerned about on your team? Who are your go-to players? Who are the guys that really impact the game?
Sure. I think Anguissa straight away is the standout performer this season. So he's a player that obviously was with us in the last time we're in the Premier League and it just didn't work out. I think the different managers, he had injuries, but this season he's just a real Rolls Royce of a player. Like in midfield, he'll definitely be gone at the end of the season. He'll be playing in the Champions League, I reckon, if he keeps up the performances. So he can basically like bring the ball up the field. He can turn in tight situations. He hasn't got any goals yet, but just watch him on Sunday. You'll see sort of how good he is. Obviously, Lookman has come in. He obviously missed a penalty, but in terms of like pace, directness, he's massive for us, especially if he's up against Williams. I think that's a really interesting battle. And like I say about Mitrovic, even though he hasn't had a great season, you can never overlook him. You know, if he's up front pushing players around, especially if you're going with the younger goalie as well, Kelleher, he'll cause him some issues. So I think those are the three I'd pull out. Robinson at left back as well, just as a sort of throw in there. Obviously a US player. He's been great for us this season. You know, he's got pace, he's got the raw ability, so he's definitely one to watch as well.
Who's the? I've watched Fulham a few times this year. Who's the right back?
So the right back,
very skillful on the ball, strong.
Yeah, I mean, so Ola Aina has basically come in. We had an injury early on, Tete, so he's actually like nearly back to full fitness. I don't think he'll feature in this game, but I think he probably edges it if you were to pick one. But Tete's come in. I think offensively, he's good. Defensively, there's some slight concerns there, especially against Mane. Like, you know, it's not too hopeful there, but yeah, I mean, he got goal of the month recently for his goal against West Brom, so he's definitely got a goal in him as well.
So I know that Fulham's given up quite a few goals this season, but I think that your keeper Ariel is still having a hell of a season. When you actually watch him perform, I think he's been great, and I think that if he could have a big game against Liverpool, because Liverpool's biggest issue this year is we really have not been as clinical as we have in the past. So can you tell us a little bit about how he's been this season, just from a Fulham's fan standpoint? Because I know, didn't you guys have a different goalie that got you promoted, and now you guys brought him in?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of criticism we get as Fulham sort of fans, that we basically don't respect's the wrong word, but we don't give loyalty to the players that got us promoted. When we brought in Areola, I was a bit surprised because Marek Rodak, who was our keeper previously and our backup goalie, was one of our players of the season last year. I think he's a great goalie, and to be honest, I was surprised by us spending this money, even if it's just a loan on the wages, to get Areola in. That being said, he's definitely a great goalie. He's probably better than Rodak, and he's probably been man of the match three or four times this season. He's pulled off some great saves and kept us in games. I think we feel very comfortable with him in goal. He's played at Real Madrid, PSG. He's got the experience, and against players like Salah and Mane, you need keepers that can command the box and pull off some great saves. So happy with him in goal, and if we don't stay up or if we don't keep Areola, we've got a good backup goalie in Rodak, but he's doing the job at the moment, so we can't complain.
Now, having said all that, where is an area on the pitch where you think Liverpool could hurt Fulham?
I mean, there's a lot that come to mind when it's Liverpool, but I think the defense, if you score early, I'm very fearful. We have a great record when we score first. I don't want to be quoted on this, but I think we haven't lost a game in the last 40 where we've scored first, which is
really,
obviously massive. Wow. Yeah, I mean that's mainly in the Championship, I guess, but still, yeah. If we concede early, I'm fearful. I mean, the centre backs, even though they've come in, they've gelled, they still haven't got a ton of experience with each other, and Salah and Mane are probably the best opposition we've come up against in forwards. So I'd say definitely anywhere on the back line could be a weakness on Sunday.
Do you expect Fulham to spend it all in January?
I think depending on injuries, obviously, like we'll probably go in for a striker. The weird thing about January is we'll probably we're still in that situation of not knowing whether we'll be a Premier League club next year or a Championship club. So you sort of have to plan ahead. You can't go paying big wages for players that might not be there next season. So you're sort of in that limbo period that you don't know where you should invest. That's why I think if we stay up, it's so massive because you can really plan ahead. But
yeah,
I think maybe a striker will be on the books depending on how Mitrovic fits in over December.
So, yeah, you mentioned like obviously depending on injuries and that sort of everything. Liverpool's been bitten by the injury bug pretty hard. I know we're at the top of the table. You guys are at the bottom, but as a fan and just like that general atmosphere going into this game, do you guys feel like you have an opportunity to potentially get some points off of us with our current situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very dependent on the team Klopp picks. I did look at the team he put out in the Champions League, and obviously Salah played the full 90, right?
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see if he rests him, for example. You'd sort of maybe think that he might give Salah 45 minutes, maybe bring him on at half time or something, depending on how the game's going. Bit surprised about Klopp's comments about substitutes and stuff, and then he's playing like full strength team and when you've already qualified. It is very odd, but
yeah. What are your thoughts on the whole 3 sub versus 5 sub?
I mean, I'm 100% for 3 subs. I don't care what Klopp says. It's massively beneficial to bigger teams with like bigger squads. It boils down to that, and he says it's about like the individual players, not about teams. But I think that's just him playing up to the cameras. I think if you have that mentality, you shouldn't be playing Salah for 90 minutes in a game where you've already qualified. You've got plenty of youth players that could be filling that role.
Yeah, I had no problem with him making those comments and supporting the 5 sub rule, but then to go in the Champions League, that didn't even matter. That the game that didn't even matter, and then play Salah, Jota, Fabinho, all these guys, and then bring on like Sadio Mane in the end. It was just I was questioning a lot of it. But
yeah, I mean, I like Klopp as a manager, but there's definitely been comments where he comes across quite like contradictory. So hopefully we can punish you based off those guys not playing.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to watch this game from a Liverpool perspective because, if it's one of those things that it's like if we know ahead of time that Mitrovic is going to be starting up top, we would probably start a guy like Nat Phillips, with either Matip or Fabinho. But then if Lookman's going to start, Reece Williams would probably be a better matchup for us going that way. So Andrew, how do you expect Liverpool to line up in this game?
Yeah, there's definitely some unknowns. Like I know Jota picked up a knock. That's been a quite contentious conversation throughout today. But that happened in the Champions League. Obviously, Alisson's coming back from injury. So I mean, the lineup that I had, I thought it could be Kelleher again in goal. I'm not sure if Matip's Alisson's gonna be ready. I do think that we're gonna start Trent. I know he played 90 minutes after just coming back from an injury, but I think he's ready to go. The injury I don't think was the worst thing. I think it was just a minor calf injury that left him out for a week or two. So I expect him to make the start. I expect Fabinho again in there. I do expect to see Matip in there. I could see him playing in the Spurs game as well, and then maybe sitting out the Palace game next weekend. But I guess we'll see on that one. Andy Robertson at left back. Hendo and Gini, I think, are going to get the start in this one. And I think that he's going to go with Naby Keita. Strictly from an experience point of view, I think Curtis Jones has been playing really well. But I think he needs to give Naby a go here just to see if he can prove himself and, really institute himself into the match. Because that's something that I think that we've all been waiting for with Naby Keita. And then the front three as usual with Jota likely being out. I think it's going to be Firmino, Mane, and Salah.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be really interesting because one of the things that we brought up earlier was like what formations Fulham going to play. And I think if they do go 5 in the back and they try to shut down the wings of Trent and Gini, No, you said it. Your center midfielder. He works really hard, and he's a really good player. If somehow Fulham do get relegated, have no doubt in my mind that a Premier League team is going to pick him up because he's a really talented player. And I think that if Fulham does find a way to destroy our creativity on the wings and forces us to go through the middle, that could potentially spell danger for us because without Thiago, we're lacking that creativity in the midfield. And that could be where this game might be more of a deadlock, 1-0 win, something like that. And then the other thing that really concerns me when I think about our potential lineup is Mitrovic. He scares the shit out of me with his aerial ability, and that's not our center back strength. And that's why I think if we know ahead of time if Mitrovic is going to play, Nat Phillips needs to be in there because he's great in the air. So those are the couple areas that I'm concerned about. And that being said, I agree. I would start Robbo and Trent both on the wings. I would actually go Fabinho at center back because I think it's more important to have Matip fully rested. Don't even rest him getting a knock before the Spurs game midweek. Midfield, yeah, I think we see the return of Gino Wijnaldum. I think Henderson will be in there as well. We just need his leadership, especially again if Fulham's going to crowd the wings. That last center mid spot's interesting. I would like to see it be Naby, just to see if he can continue, just to get some run legs, see if he can improve his performance. And then I do think we're going to see the normal front three: Mane, Firmino, and Salah. It's been a while since those three have played together, and I think it's going to be important for those guys to get a rhythm before the Spurs game.
You think he's going to start Nat Phillips?
I do, yeah. I think it's going to be Nat Phillips instead, just because of the aerial threat. We're just going to need him in there. Again, if it's Lookman, that could potentially be a one-up for Fulham there. But I still think that Phillips is more incapable, playing with his feet as well. But I just think it's going to be Phillips. I just have that feeling. He can't play in the Champions League, so might as well use him now. It's kind of my rationale on that. But then, Andrew, before we start getting to the scoreline and predictions, a couple big matchups as well. And now, Charlie, I'll get your opinion on this too. Chelsea's playing Everton and Spurs are playing Palace. So how important would 3 points be for Liverpool this week?
I think they're huge. I think every game is a must win now. I think Chelsea definitely could drop points against Everton. I think it depends which Everton team shows up. If it's the Everton team that played against us, I think they could come out of there with a win. But if not, I think Chelsea might steamroll them. And I don't think James is going to be playing. So we'll see how that goes for Everton. But Spurs, same thing. We're going to be playing against them on Wednesday. Hopefully they can drop points. I don't really see that happening against Palace. Palace seem to be a pretty inconsistent side this year so far. Mm-hmm. They just battered somebody. I forget who it was. Was it West Brom? Yeah, they beat them 4-1 or 4-0 or something like that. So you never know which team's going to show up. Maybe Christian Benteke will bag a goal and help us out. But I think every game's a must win when you're Liverpool. We also have the Manchester clubs playing tomorrow, and if either one of them gets a win, then they're right on our tail if we don't pick up points here. So
it's true.
It's a huge weekend.
And Charlie, when you think about it from the Fulham perspective, the teams below you, Burnley's playing Arsenal, Brighton's playing Leicester, West Brom's playing Newcastle, and then Sheffield's playing Southampton. So none of them have easy games. I mean, what would even 1 point or 3 points, what would that do for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. Like all the games we played this season, we seem to have been really fortunate with other teams' results. So even when Fulham lose, you sort of look at the league table after, and we're somehow still right in it. I mean, it's a miracle that we're still in the hunt at the moment based off some of the performances. But in terms of the fixtures for you guys, I think the Tottenham game against Palace could be a potential sort of slip up. I think we both know about Roy Hodgson. He's managed both our teams and, probably had more success with Fulham than Liverpool. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Spurs drop points against Palace. I've just got a feeling the way Roy sets up, he's very hard to break down. So that'll be an interesting one. And Chelsea, I think Chelsea look really good this season. I do like Frank Lampard, even though he's ex-Chelsea player and obviously manager. But, you don't know with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Everton have put in some great performances. So for sure, it might be a good week for you guys in terms of drop points for the big boys.
Charlie, also, I was looking at some of the fixtures for Fulham coming up in December. It actually seems like a pretty good month for you guys. I know you have Liverpool and Spurs, but then you also have, I think it's Brighton, Newcastle, and Southampton, right? So, I mean, those three right there are very winnable games, or, games where you can at least get some points.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of turn into must wins at some point, because
Right.
I think after the West Ham game, we had a run of Leicester, Liverpool, City, well, Leicester, City, Liverpool. And you look at those games and you think, right, we're not going to get anything from those. So the Leicester win was massive because it basically gave us a cushion.
Right.
We're playing Brighton at home next Wednesday, which is massive game. And we sort of haven't spoken about it, but this game against Liverpool is the first game that fans are back for Fulham. So, I mean, that's such a boost, I think, for our players.
How many fans do you know?
We've got
2,000?
2,000, yeah. So the sort of setup of Craven Cottage, I know you guys have been there. You'll know that it's a small ground, so the fans really do make a difference, despite what Twitter might have you say about Fulham fans and noise. But the way Craven Cottage is set up, you're sort of right on top of the pitch. The fans can make a difference, and I think for a lot of the Fulham players that haven't played in front of the fans yet. We've won a playoff at Wembley. But so many players have come in and haven't actually had that interaction with fans. So hopefully they'll be spurred on to impress,
No, I'm happy you brought that up. That's actually going to be my next question, was about your fandom and having those people in the stands, because we saw comments from when we had fans in the stands last week, and I forget who we beat last week already. Can't believe it. But the players on the opposing team, Wolves. Yeah, the team from Wolves. They were mentioning how 2,000 people felt like it was 15,000, and especially when you think about, like you said, how your stadium is set up, they're going to be loud. You're going to be able to hear them. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you can actually hear the individuals and what they're saying. It's not just that massive noise. It's like you can actually hear them chirping you in your ear like that. So, and vice versa, you can hear the support that you're getting as well. So I do think that's going to play a big factor in this game as well, especially like you said, if you guys avoid an early goal and it's a deadlock game going into the second half, I think that's when the fans are going to play a huge role in this game. So it's going to be definitely something to keep an eye on.
Are you going to be there, Charlie?
I'm actually not. I didn't apply to these sort of round of tickets because basically with Fulham it was quite odd. You had to apply for 3 games and you'd get selected for 1. It wasn't like other clubs where you go in the ballot for 1 game, but I'll probably start applying maybe after Christmas. Also, I'm not too keen, to be honest, on the setup. Like for me, there's just too many sort of rules in place to make it the usual matchday experience, but I'm sure the people that do go will, be lively and give some jip to the players. Like I think that if Alisson doesn't play, I think the young goalie might, get a bit of an earful. So they're the sort of interactions where you look for and think, they could put the keeper under some pressure, give him some sticks. So yeah.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one. So let's close it out with our scoreline predictions here. So Charlie, why don't you go ahead, kick us off? What are you predicting for a scoreline? And if you want to throw out a goal scorer, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'm only on here once, maybe twice this season, so I'm gonna have to go for a Fulham win. I'll go 2-1 to Fulham with I'm gonna say Mitrovic, even though he might not start. Mitrovic and Lookman, and a goal from Salah. Who else? But yeah, optimistic, I guess, to say the least.
Hey, we'll take it. I like the confidence you got.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a different route there. I'm gonna say 3-0 to the mighty Reds. I think that they're gonna be too much for Fulham. I think Sadio Mane has been due for a goal for a while now. I think he's gonna get 2 goals, and who's gonna get the last one? I think Salah's gonna get the third.
Yeah, honestly, I'm actually predicting this game is going to be a pretty close game as well. I think it's going to be probably 2-0, 2-1. I'll put my stamp on 2-0, but I think it's going to be a well-fought game. I actually fully expect to see a 5 in the back for Fulham, and I think if they do that, like we've seen all season, we're lacking that creativity, and our front three really haven't had the typical fluidity that we're used to seeing. So I think if you guys are able to slow the crosses from Trent and Robertson, it's going to be hard for us to break that down, even with your center backs only playing a few games together at this point. But I'll say it's going to be 2-0. We'll probably get a solid penalty. And then, Bobby Firmino, guys do. Throw it out there. So
I love it.
There. But, at this point, that pretty much wraps up this episode of Yanks of the Cop. Charlie, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate you. And we're definitely going to have you back for the second leg when we play you again.
You're a natural, man. I told you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be back on if we lose 5-0, but we'll see. I'll definitely be on if we get a win. So.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. Everyone who's tuning in, go ahead and give Charlie a follow. He used to have a much bigger account, and then he had to get a new one. So let's help him grow. Let's, football Twitter stick together. Otherwise, everyone else out there, hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. And we'll be back Sunday night for the post-match reactions of hopefully 3 points for Liverpool. But up the Reds, and we'll see you guys later. Take care, everybody.
See ya.